It's winter time here in New York City and the heat in my apartment is turned up. So when it gets really hot, the humidity levels drop. So I've been running my Levoit LV600HH in order to keep the humidity levels high for my houseplants. Now, since I've been running my machine continuously, it's been building up some gunk, so I need to clean it regularly. And in this video, I want to share with you how I clean my machine. Welcome to my channel, Plant Daddy. Who's your daddy? Plant Daddy. Thanks for tuning in and welcome to this video. If we haven't met yet, I'm a plant daddy, one of the millions of plant daddies in the world who loves to take care of houseplants. I started my houseplant care journey because I work at home. I was looking for ways to improve productivity, reduce stress, and just make my space more inspiring. So that's why I got into houseplants. So in this video, I want to share with you how I clean my humidifier. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, a few things that you're going to need to use to clean your humidifier are distilled vinegar. I would recommend getting a large gallon size because if you're going to clean your machine regularly, you're going to want to have this on hand. We're also going to need bleach because we're going to disinfect the machine. And then you'll also need a gallon of water. If you have an extra milk water jug laying around from distilled water, you could fill it up with tap water, and we'll be using this to clean the machine. You'll need a measuring cup, and if you kept your Levoit box and packaging and whatnot, it should have came with this this brush, this tool to clean your machine. So these are the things that are needed to clean your Levoit. Also, if you do use distilled water in your machine regularly, I would recommend having a gallon on hand to just make sure that you're using distilled water to clean your machine if you use distilled water in your machine. Now, so I don't have the luxury of using distilled water in my machine because I run it so often. It just wouldn't be it wouldn't be cost efficient for me to use distilled water all the time because I'd have to go to the store, buy it, bring it home. So I'm just filling up my machine with regular tap water. Now, since I'm running my machine constantly, it requires a little bit more frequent maintenance, which is why you want to clean your machine regularly or have a regular routine or cleaning schedule for your machine. Now, I clean mine once a month. Depending on how much you use it or your comfort level of cleanliness, they recommend to disinfect it weekly, but I'm on a monthly schedule for me to clean my machine. So let's go start cleaning the machine. Now, right before you get started, your machine is running. You want to make sure that you turn off the humidifier. This should be obvious, and then unplug it. So make sure you completely disconnect your machine from the wall. Safety first. You want to make sure everything is disconnected. Then the next thing we're going to do is take apart the machine. You're going to empty any water. Now, I have this plastic bucket this plastic shoebox that I cleaned and I used to soak my parts in. So I'm going to go ahead and put all the parts in there. I'm going to take out the water chamber. And then I'm going to dump out all the water. Dump out all the water, and then I'm going to take apart the machine. We're going to remove this this tower, this humidifier tower. Dump that in the bucket. I'm going to remove this pad here, and then I'm just going to rinse this pad. Now, depending on how dirty your machine is, you might want to change your pad. Now, with this machine, there's a few extra pads that the device came with, but I'm just going to keep cleaning my pad until it gets really bad that I need to replace it, but I think I can just rinse it out for now. And I'll just put this to the side. And then next, what we're going to do is we're going to dump out the water in our machine. Now, you want to make sure that you do not get water into this opening. There's a sticker here. You read the sign. It says do not put water into this opening. And then make sure that you dump out the water. Now, I'm just going to do this real quick over my sink like this so that the water gets out fast, just like a quick motion, so you don't get any of the electronic components wet. So that's why I just do a quick motion, just dump it in the sink. So now what we're going to do now is we're going to clean the machine. We're going to use distilled vinegar. What you want to make sure is to take about a cup of distilled vinegar, and then we're going to pour it into the chamber here. Make sure you spread it around. And this is going to kill all the bacteria and germs. So we're going to pour that in there. And then we're going to pour vinegar into the tank. So I'm going to pour a couple cups in there. All right, and then I'm going to pour some vinegar in my bucket. Just soak this with vinegar. And then, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to swish the vinegar around. Make sure that I get all the sides and rotate it. Clean it, you know, swish it around. Make sure you get all the buildup, whatever. So once that's got a good shake, I'm going to actually let this sit here for 30 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to soak the unit here. You're going to let that soak for 30 minutes, and then you're going to let these parts soak for 30 minutes. Now, with these parts, you're going to get some gunk and some buildup if you haven't cleaned your machine in a while. So I would recommend using just a paper towel, soaking with the vinegar solution, and just like getting in all the nooks and crannies to make sure that you remove all the nastiness that's inside your humidifier. But if you clean your machine regularly, hopefully that won't be the case in your situation. But make sure you clean all the parts for the humidifier. See, you don't want to spread bacteria and mold into your home, so that's why a regular cleaning maintenance, maybe like a weekly or a monthly cadence, would be recommended. Now, we're going to let that soak for 30 minutes. All right, 30 minutes has passed. We're going to go ahead and rinse all of our parts off. I'm going to dump out the vinegar. Oops, I'm going to dump out the vinegar there. And then I'm going to rinse this off in cold water here. Let me move this vinegar to the side. Our kitchens are tiny here in New York if you live in an apartment, so I'm trying to work with the space that I got. I'm going to rinse off this tub. Let's see, give it another swish. I'm going to open up this this chamber. Now, I'm going to rinse this off. Now, if you use distilled water in your machine, I would recommend using distilled water to rinse the machine. And just so that the water's clean. I use tap water in my machine, so I don't mind using regular water to rinse it out, but for the video and demonstration purposes, I'm assuming if you do use it with distilled water, I put distilled water for the demo. Okay, so we'll go ahead and rinse that out. Just know that, just to make sure if there's any vinegar smell. Let me get more distilled water here, actually. All right, just pour a little bit in there. And then we're going to shake it. And then rinse this out. And that should be better. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so what we're going to do is that. And then now before we empty out our humidifier of the vinegar, you should have already received this brush that came with your humidifier. And what you want to do is you want to clean the inside of the humidifier like so, to loosen up any debris, get any gunk out in the nooks and crannies that you weren't able to get out, and then give it a good wipe. So there you go. That looks good. Now my machine looks pretty clean because I've cleaned it a few times. So if you clean it regularly, it should be easy to clean. But if you haven't cleaned it in a while, you're probably going to have some buildup, which will be really nasty and not fun to work with. But if you clean it regularly, you shouldn't have a problem. But you could have like a schedule, just like, I don't know, any maintenance schedule. Just put it on your calendar to have a routine once a month on a Sunday when you're doing plant care day to regularly clean your humidifier. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and dump out the liquid. Now make sure that, again, water does not get into this opening here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to lift the machine up straight and then do a quick flip action to get the vinegar out. So bam, just get it out there. And then what we're going to do, again, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use distilled water, just in case you use distilled water in your machine. We're going to rinse out the chamber. Now I want to remove the vinegar smell from this, so there we go. Okay, and then dump that out again. Okay, now our humidifier is clean. So what we should really do is just like let all the components air dry. You could just let it sit until it air dries before you reassemble it. That's what the instructions say for this device, but I'm going to give this a little wipe down here just to speed up the process for me. But and if you're wondering how to do this, again, just you could read the instructions that came with the machine, but it's always nice to have a video to watch like this. But just in case you wanted to follow the steps that I'm doing in this video, you could reread the instructions that came with your Levoit humidifier. Okay, so now let's pretend that everything is dry. We're going to go ahead and reassemble the machine. Now, let's put back this tower first. I'm going to just wipe this tower off here again and pretend this is dry. Remember to put the pad back in place here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to reattach this tower. Now remember, the circular part lines up with this circular joint here, and this goes over like this and it fits snug. Now you can just follow the diagram to see how the device is going to fit back when you reassemble it. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to fill up the humidifier with water. If you use distilled water, put distilled water in it. I use tap water in my machine, so I'm just going to fill this chamber up. All right. So I'm going to put cold water in here. Now that I got cold water in my humidifier, I'm going to reassemble it and then put it back on. And then I'm going to put this lid back on, and then we're going to plug it in. And then I usually, for this next step, then I'll turn it back on just to make sure it works, which it should work. Let's see, I'll let it run. So I usually let my humidifier run a little bit in where I'm cleaning my humidifier, because just in case there's any vinegar smell or anything, I want it to get out of the system before I put this back near where my plants are, because I don't want my living room to smell like vinegar, just in case. But I'll run the humidifier a little bit near the sink where I cleaned it. So as you can see, that was pretty easy on how to clean the humidifier. What we're going to do next is we're going to disinfect the humidifier. So we're going to repeat the same steps that we did, but we're going to disinfect it, and that's where the bleach comes in. So again, we're going to remove the tank. Let's dump out the water. Let's get the parts back in the soaking tub right there. And then we're going to rinse this pad. Oh, I forgot an important step. Make sure you unplug the machine. That's a safety tip number one that I have to emphasize, is make sure you disconnect your machine when you're cleaning it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to dump out the water. And then now we're going to disinfect the machine. Now that's where if you have a gallon of water, what we're going to do is we're going to put a teaspoon of Clorox into the gallon of water. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of Clorox right here. You just need a little bit. Pour that in there. Make sure to rinse that off. I'll clean that in a minute. So now that I got my Clorox in my water, what I'm going to do is shake up the bleach so it mixes with the water. And then now that it's mixed, what we're going to do next is we're going to take a cup. You're going to pour a cup back into the chamber. And this is with your bleach water solution, and this is to disinfect the device. And then we're going to do the same here. Just take all your parts, just dump the bleach water there, just like that, let it soak. And then we're going to do the same for this machine right here. I'm going to dump some water in there. Let me shake this up like this. Oh, make sure I gotta check the rubber gasket here. Make sure that rubber gasket is properly fitted in the, there we go. Shake it around. Okay, so now that you have everything soaking again with the bleach water, what you're gonna do next is we're gonna wait 30 minutes again. So it's nice, you can kind of actually do this in between your plant care, where you can clean the machine, do some plant care, come back, rinse it off, let it dry, and then you can do the bleaching process later after you've watered some plants, or you could create your own workflow on how you want to clean your machine in between your plant care day. So now that the machine has been soaking for 30 minutes, we're ready to go ahead and rinse it out again. So let's go ahead and rinse out the device. Let's dump this here like this. I'm gonna pour some distilled water here just to rinse this out. Again, I have to emphasize, do not allow water into this outlet here. And then dump that in there. And then what we're gonna do here is dump out this bleach water. Now I'm gonna have to rinse this out here. I'm gonna shake this up. Now hopefully you got all the bleach out, but if not, then just rinse and repeat. I'm gonna put that back in there. Clean it with distilled water. Rinse that out. So my machine should be disinfected, and I won't have any germs. Won't be spreading any germs in my home. Okay, so now that's rinsed out. We're gonna do the same with this. I'm gonna rinse out. I'm gonna pour the water over these devices here. Now, You could rinse this with distilled water or regular tap water, depending on what kind of water you use in your machine. But just to keep everything kosher, for if you use distilled water, I'm rinsing with distilled water. Okay, so let's go ahead and reassemble the machine. Again, following the guide, just look at the pattern of how to reassemble the machine. Make sure you put the pad in first, and then put this tower back in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fill up your humidifier with water. Now if you use distilled water, use distilled water. I'm using tap water. Okay, so now that pretend that this has been filled up with water again, I'm going to reassemble the humidifier and then put the nozzle on the top on. And then I'm going to plug the device back in. And with this as well, I will run it a little bit. I will run the humidifier again in near the sink area, just to like get any let the water go to the system and clean out the clean out any remainings of, if there's any like bleach water in the system. But I just run it a little bit just to clean it a little bit more. And that's pretty much it. That's how to clean your machine and disinfect it. I'd be curious to learn how you clean your machine. If there's anything I missed or anything I should consider or do, I'd love to learn from you as well. So please feel free to share any feedback on this video tutorial. And if you haven't already, please click like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. And I really appreciate you watching this video tutorial. And thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next video. Have a great day.